Hi, everyone. I'm Katie,
And this is Yarlin.
and this is Fae and Fables, a podcast hosted by two mental health counselors who take a psych deep dive into your favorite fantasy and romantasy books. Today, we are going to be reviewing Enchantra by Kaylie Smith. We loved this book.
Oh, yes.
We were into it. So we're really excited to get to talk to you about it. A few things and disclaimers. One, there are spoilers for both Phantasma and Enchantra. That's all the books that are out right now for this series. So if you haven't read them yet, go do that and then come back. Also, we are going to be talking about a lot of different themes, some of which are potentially impactful or intense for some folks to hear. This includes things like graphic violence, sexual content, death, the paranormal, and mental health themes, also strong language and generally adult content. So if those are things you're not in a place to hear today, take a break, come on back some other day when you feel like you want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
In addition to our usual disclaimers and things, Yarlin and I have been brainstorming because we've gotten some feedback that folks want even more psych content that we are already delivering. And you know what? We are ready to do that for you.
Yeah.
I feel like we constantly have to hold ourselves back.
For sure. Because we could talk for hours on end about all these
Literally.
things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just switching things around.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is during our plots and thoughts time, which we will get into here in a little bit, we are going to incorporate some of our psych thoughts as we go along in the story. And then at the end, as always, we're going to do a deep dive into sort of that therapy mindset. So we're still doing therapy mind stuff. I think we're playing around with the title Therapy Deep Dive, which, you know, working titles here. We're always trying to find a working title.
Always improving.
Always improving, always working. But we are also going to incorporate some of those psych components throughout our discussion of the plot as well. So gear up for that because it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
All right, let's get into our rating.
Okay, I'm excited.
I would love for you to go first. Tell me your star and chili pepper rating.
Okay, my star rating was 5 out of 5. And here's the thing. I didn't think it was a perfect book. I thought there were some things where it could have lost a star. I almost went 4 out of 5. My biggest thing would have been the fact that we have this like game thing that happens in the first book.
Yeah.
And then we have more games in the second book. And I was like, this is starting to get a little bit repetitive with the games component. However, Kaylie got me. She got me good.
Yeah.
One, because there's a plus size FMC. I get down with that. And also, the MMC was so delectable. And
yeah, he's a shadow daddy. So that already won
literally,
me over.
Yeah.
I was like
5 stars.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I rated this based on pure enjoyment, if I put my literary analysis brain on, it probably would have been a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
But it was just too saucy and great, and it had me hooked. Despite my misgivings out on the games part.
Yeah. What was your chili pepper rating?
Oh, 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think this is about as spicy as you can get before you start. You know those books you read and it is not for the plot. We know that we're reading the book for the smut, for the spice. This book exists for me just on this side of it has actual plot.
Yeah.
It has actual character development. There's other things going on. There's lore going on. And if you had any more spice, I'd been like, this is just for the smut. So I think I gave it 5 chili peppers. There was moments where I was like, come on. This could be like when they were sitting in rooms for hours on end.
Oh yeah.
Together.
I feel like I always want more spicy moments.
But yeah, I also think if I actually got them, we'd also be sitting here being like, oh, it's too easy. Like, yeah, I think it left me waiting long enough. It made it a little bit of a struggle. It was like we had to get there.
Yes.
And then when it arrived, It was
It delivered.
everything. Yeah, it was everything that I was hoping it might be. So, what
Yeah.
about you? What is star chili pepper?
I gave it 5 out of 5 too.
Yay! Woo!
Like, similarly, like, to you, it was kinda, like, traveling along the 4 out of 5 stars
Mm,
until, like, close to the end that we'll
okay.
get into, where I actually literally shed a tear. I actually
Oh.
cried, and I was like, "Wow, this is 5 out of 5."
You're like, if a tear is shed, that's a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, so I was
Okay.
like, "Okay." I liked this story a lot. So
Mm,
5 out of 5. Chili pepper, 5 out of 5 too.
love that.
So, I thought everything was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was just it was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun to read. It and I think in some ways because the game theme was repeated, I almost could relax a little bit because
Yeah,
I kinda
Phantasma was
knew
too much, to be honest.
Phantasma scared me a little bit. It stressed me out.
Yeah, and this one was, like you said, like, more easygoing, and I
Mhm.
truly liked Enchantra more than Phantasma.
Really?
Just because I feel like things were a little bit more simpler, like, their love was, like, different. I don't know, it was definitely more enemies to lovers in this one.
Oh, yeah. That's I
So,
did enjoy that.
yeah.
In Phantasma, they never really get fully to enemies, I think.
No, he
They're
liked
like
her from the whole time.
well, but she was suspicious. She saw
Yeah.
him and was like, "I don't know if you have my best interest in
But
heart,"
she
but she
was,
was
like, attracted
never.
to him the whole time.
That is true. That is true.
So,
They were never truly at odds.
yeah.
You start this book,
Mhm.
they are at odds.
Yeah.
He tries to kick her to the curb, and
Yes, slam the
she's
door in her face multiple times. I'm
yeah.
like, I like that. It's, like, real and,
Mhm,
so
mhm. They had more ground to overcome before they got
yeah.
to the lovers part, so
Mhm.
it was just a grand old time. Just
It was really good.
spicy and fun and game-esque, but in a
Mm,
way that was less stressful than Phantasma,
right.
and here we are to
Yeah.
appreciate it and to dive in psychologically.
So we're gonna discuss our plots and thoughts. So we're
Mm.
gonna kinda dive into some of the things that were going on, have some little psych analysis questions throughout.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of this book, kind of starts off with Genevieve traveling in Italy.
I love Italy, dude. I
I still need to go. I need to
I've
go.
been to Italy 3 times.
Oh my
Would go
goodness.
again.
I need
Would
to go.
go if I had the cash money flow to just be in Italy maybe
Yeah.
half the time, I would. It's such a cool place. I
I know.
loved that this was set in Italy. It just
Yeah. So, she decided to follow the letters that were sent to her mother from a Barrington Silver.
mm,
Um, she was kind of pretending to be her mom and kind of responding back and forth. Um, and again, I feel like she was doing all this behind Ophelia's back, but
yeah.
we'll get into that in a little bit. And she was also being constantly stalked by crows. So that seemed to be kind of like almost like an omen
Mm,
sign of like something bad's gonna happen. They never really explained like what was that,
mm.
but
Yeah, I think they never delve into how the magic works. Wasn't
yeah.
it the crows were basically there to make sure that she made it to the manor? Because again, Genevieve is acting like her mom. So
Yeah.
Barrington Silver, whoever opened the letter
Yeah.
is the one that receives the hex.
Oh, that's
And
right.
the
Yeah.
hex is what all the crows are attracted to whoever opened the letter and got the
Oh,
hex.
I forgot that the letter had magic.
Yeah. And so when
Interesting.
she opens the letter in Barrington Silver's mind, it's her mother, Tessie. That's her mother's name, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Tessie.
You
You're
all know
good?
I struggle with the names. I struggle with the names. Um, so he thinks it's her mother, Tessie, and so the hex was designed to get Tessie to the house
Right.
because Barrington thought Tessie can help us with this.
Mhm.
Little does anybody know that it's Genevieve, and so when she opens the letter, the crows are basically there to
Right,
ensure that they've heard her to
yeah.
the manor.
There we go. So, like I mentioned earlier, to be honest, Genevieve's lack of honesty in
Mm,
both of these books was a bit frustrating for me.
mhm.
I guess just as a counselor and just like you're clearly doing things out of. Like, in Phantasma when she was, like, forging the checks and doing all of
Mhm.
this, and it's, like, very strange. So how important is honesty in any relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think if we start from, Genevieve specifically, whenever I see someone not engaging in honesty within their relationships, there's usually a reason, right?
Yeah.
And so I also find like I think Yarlin and I struggle in the miscommunication
Yes.
trope arena because we're both so focused on communication in our professional lives that
Mhm.
I think it makes it hard for us to sit there and be like, just talk about it.
Yeah.
So- and if I'm using my empathy building piece. If we look at Genevieve's life up to this point, her mother's energy has really gone into Ophelia. And
Mm.
not on purpose. We know that Tessie loved both of her daughters.
Yeah.
And she also had these outside forces that were pushing her to make sure that the family was safe by passing her uh
Like,
her
legacy or yeah.
exactly her legacy onto Ophelia.
Mm.
And so some of Genevieve's dishonesty, I think, comes from the fact that in some ways she was the daughter who was meant to be unseen. And
Mm.
not again, I don't think that's what Tessie would say if you asked her about her daughters. I don't know if she would put it that way, but in Genevieve's mind, I'm the one that like Tessie and Ophelia have this thing going on over here,
Mm.
and I'm designed to be a non-problem for that purpose.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that I'm not an issue here. And so I don't love Genevieve's dishonesty, and I can see where it comes from. I can see
Yeah.
where she got the message. I can't tell them what's going on with me. They have fantastical life-altering magic stuff that they're trying to contend with,
True.
and what's my stuff? Now, Genevieve is also a specter, and she keeps that from her mother for her own purposes.
And her
So,
sister too.
yeah, from everybody
Yeah.
for her own purposes. So, I think there is a component where Genevieve likes her independence and she likes to be able to do what she wants to do, and
Yeah.
she's kind of tricksy that way.
She seems also misunderstood because even, like,
Mm.
her reason to go to, like, Enchantra or find this is, like, to find people more like me or, like, to really
Yes.
discover myself type of thing. So, she
Yes.
definitely was going through a little self-discovery moment.
Mhm. Well, and I think what this highlights is the fact that in order to have honesty, you need trust and mutual understanding. And to
Mhm.
be honest, I don't know if Ophelia ever truly understood Genevieve up
Yeah.
until we got partway through Phantasma and into Enchantra. And I don't know if Genevieve ever truly understood Ophelia, her mother, either, because
Mm.
she never got the chance to.
Yeah.
She was one who had to forge her own path outside of her family's legacy, whereas Ophelia really had a path and she had to learn to break from it. I think Genevieve was very much outside of the legacy and she had to learn to forge her own legacy.
Yeah, because she didn't wanna be a necromancer and didn't wanna do anything like that, so
Mhm. And
yeah.
and I think if we apply this in the real world space, what we can pull from this is that honesty only happens within certain relational circumstances. That in
Yeah.
order to expect honesty from one another, we need trust, we need communication, we need to take some interpersonal risks
Yeah.
where I have to be honest with you and see how you handle it. And then there's an exchange of trust or honesty that goes back and forth.
Yeah.
And if someone's honest and it is not well received or it's bashed or it's, there's a breakdown in the relationship, what that communicates is I can't be honest.
Yeah.
I have to, shield myself. So honesty, I think, as anything else, is a skill, and it's one that Genevieve did not have a lot of practice in, and it's one that I think I see with my clients, that clients sometimes come in to try to learn how to be real with people, to
Mhm.
be vulnerable, to say the thing in a compassionate and kind way and
Yeah.
gain that skill.
Yeah, it's definitely a skill, and I feel like like you said, it's something that Genevieve is she didn't really have a lot of practice. I mean, even in Phantasma, like, her kinda going off and running away essentially, and, like, there's a lot of lack of communication there. So,
Yeah.
now, she travels here to Italy and she goes I mean, they know that she's traveling
They know
there,
she's in Italy.
but she went off the grid
Well,
ever.
and in some ways, I mean, she had opened the letter, so I think she was intending on going off the grid anyway. But the
Yeah.
crows really push her. She
Yeah.
tries. She tries to kind of go about her regular Italian
And they
itinerary, and the crows are like smacking into the windows and
Yeah,
really
that's really
disrupting. Yeah,
scary.
it was. I think this book was scary in a different way than Phantasma was,
Mm.
and it. I don't know if there was a part in Phantasma where I was very afraid right at the beginning, and
Oh,
then I
yeah.
kinda got used to the haunts and, like, so this even the crows, I think it would've been scary to live through, but,
Yeah.
like, by the time I got here, I was like, "Oh, of course a flock of crows is gonna, follow you, because of a hex." Like, I was
Yeah.
fully in the world by this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I definitely do think Enchantra was less scary versus
Mhm.
Phantasma, because I mean, even in, like, kinda the trials that were going on in this book, it wasn't really, like, haunting things, it's
Mm.
more like, obviously, like, family members just trying to
I think it I well, I don't even wanna say it's more violent because I don't know if that's true, but there was more
personal violence.
personal
Yeah.
exactly. There was more hand-to-hand, personal,
Yeah.
mm, human or
Yeah.
wraith, as it were, violence,
Mhm.
um, and less spooks, like, less
Yeah.
ghosty
This
stuff.
definitely made it more intense, I think, because of the whole aspect of them kinda knowing each other.
Mm.
So Genevieve kinda finds her way to the Enchantra castle house, if you will.
Which, by the way, poor carriage driver. I felt so bad. She went full, like she, like, got real scary in front of the carriage driver and
Yeah.
basically said, "Drive back to town now if you wanna live," and the poor guy.
'Cause he didn't wanna leave her. Cause basically when
Yeah.
she arrived, it was just kind of like a plot of land, and there
That's
was
so
nothing
mean.
there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so funny with, like, the little demon berries or
Mhm.
that were kind of
Which immediately, by the way, she sees the demon berries, the crows one of the crows eats the berry, and then she goes, "I could eat a berry." Why?
why. Yeah.
I'm so risk averse.
I don't know if I would eat a random berry from a bush.
Probably not. No.
Yeah.
I won't even if someone points at, like they're like, "Oh, that's a wild blueberry bush," which happens in the
Yes.
wild in some places, I get suspicious. I'm like,
'Cause you don't know. There could be many different versions, and it could be the
yeah.
toxic version of a
I've
blueberry.
read too much dystopian
Yeah.
fantasy. I've read too many circumstances where someone eats the mistaken nightshade berry
Yes.
and ends up dead, okay? So,
Yeah.
I'm very careful about that.
Yeah, so she decided to eat it. I don't know. She was kind of being, she's very, rebellious.
I like it.
So she ate the berry, and then she's kinda like, um almost like she's about to pass out because of, like, it is a demon berry and it's kinda taking over your powers or something like that.
Yeah.
So there are multiple times where she tries to enter or ask, "Where is this Enchantra place? I need to find Barrington Silver." And Rowan, which is the MMC, he's basically shutting the door in her face many times. Clearly did not want her there. I liked that he was very honest, like, "No, you gotta leave. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not welcome here."
Mhm.
The backstory to that as to why he was kind of being like, "No, you gotta leave or you can't be here," is that the hunt was happening that night, and anyone inside the mansion cannot leave and has to play.
Mm.
So he was kind of like protecting her or like not wanting to have her involved in his family yearly thing, which is called the hunt. And unfortunately at some point she just barges in,
She says, "I don't accept."
which I don't
Mm.
like. If
I don't
someone
know.
is telling you no, leave, you're not welcome, and you'd still go in, I don't know.
I think in the real world, yeah.
Yeah.
If someone tells you you're not welcome in their house, you should probably leave the premises. That's not, it's
Yeah.
not healthful or helpful. I will say, if I had a flock of crows trying to
Attacking
peck
you.
me, I would at least try to stay around long enough to say, "Please make the crow thing stop. I don't give a shit about the rest of this,
Yeah.
but I need the crows to stop." Now, she doesn't feel that. She wants answers because in her mind, she thinks, "What if this is another necromancer family?"
Yeah, that's what she's looking for.
Exactly. She's looking for belonging and
Yeah.
acceptance, and
Hmm.
I understand that. And I my main priority would be the crows. If you kick me out after that, fine, but
Yeah.
you can't be having crows at my heels.
Yeah, that would get annoying at some point.
And dirty and
Scary.
terrifying. Like the crow's got to poop at some point. I
Ooh.
don't that would be my I know that's
Gross.
I know that's not everybody's main concern. But
Yeah.
I'm not a big bird person, so
Yeah.
I'm I'm always worried about the flapping wings and the pooping, and I don't want that on me or near me.
My gosh. So, she kind of barges in, enters the home, and basically she can't get out. So
Mhm.
Rowan kind of introduces himself, and he is a shadow daddy.
Shadow daddy.
So
Woo.
Rowan and his siblings are wraiths, which are like super powerful,
Mhm.
really rare, always.
Half it's like half devil, half human,
Yeah.
and that's how you get a wraith, and they all have different magical powers,
Yeah.
and there's like different sets of powers. It's
Yeah, each sibling kind of has like their own
mhm.
wraith version power, and they're like sustained by blood. I know that was mentioned.
So I think actually there's only a couple of them that are sustained by blood.
Yeah.
It's 7 and
I wish that would have been mentioned more.
yeah. It's 7 and one of the other siblings, I think. Maybe Wellington.
I
I
don't
can't remember who the
remember.
other one is, but they're a certain kind of wraith
Yeah.
that lives by blood. And then Rowan and I think Remington or
Mhm.
I don't know, or maybe it's Grave. They're the shadow ones, and then
Grave
Ellington.
is the void
Oh
one,
yes,
who sees
okay.
the most powerful.
Oh yeah.
So, as we've mentioned some of these names, I was like, okay, Kaylee went really hard on these names. So we have Rowington, which
Mm.
is the MMC. We have Gravington, Covington, Rowington. Oh yeah, I said that already.
You did, but I was gonna let you do it.
Remington, which is Rowington's twin. Jesus Christ. Sevington, Wellington, and Ellington. So they kind of just
What?
they remove the Ington, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of go with like Coven, Rowan, Remy, Seven, Welly?
Well,
Is
I
it
think it's
well?
well. I don't
And
know.
then
I'm not sure.
Ellie or something like
It's
that.
I think hers is L.
Oh.
I'm not. Yeah, I shouldn't be leading this charge. I don't know. I don't know. The fact that you had them all there.
I was like, I gotta mention all these names.
Yeah, you and pip pip 5 gold stars to you.
So, I feel like this was a good example of how Genevieve ignored boundaries and clear signs of not wanting to be there. It ended up getting her in a serious situation. Obviously, this is kind of the hunt was a life or death thing. They have to all the siblings kind of compete in this yearly trial set by this devil called Nox, and it's basically a form of entertainment for other devils that get to watch this.
Mm.
It's just horrible,
It's
but
almost like if you had a much creepier haunted house version of Hunger
I
Games.
was just gonna say that. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that.
They
So,
there's these like rich and bored devils that
yeah.
can bet on people, and they can
Mhm.
like throw their resources behind particular people.
Yeah.
It's
It
wild.
reminded me a lot of Hunger Games,
Yeah.
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 So they gotta compete in this, basically gotta kill each other, and the winner slash whoever receives favored gets kind of a year free of
Mm.
this.
Yeah. And I think doesn't it them competing sustains their mother too.
Yep, because
Mhm.
their mom has crimson rot, which we learn a little bit more about later and how that happened, but it's kind of a almost like a degenerative type of disease, where she, like, forgets her memory or she's just very sickly.
Mm,
So and they're trying to find the cure for that throughout all this time.
yeah.
Mm,
It's a high stakes game. It is high stakes.
yeah.
And I think it's even more high stakes because Rowan has won over, I think, the
Yep.
last 15 years or something.
Yeah, he's
And
won a lot.
so the siblings are out for blood. They all
Yeah.
want to win. And you find out like dying is very painful. They
Mhm.
go to basically, I think they go to hell
Yeah, they go to
to
hell.
Knox's mansion to serve him
Yeah.
for the rest of the year. But it's not a painless process. When they die, it's very painful. And
Mhm.
so it's a wanting to save their mom, it's wanting to not be in servitude to Knox for another year, and
Yeah.
it's also a trying to avoid the incredible pain that comes with dying and going to Knox's
Yeah, it
mansion.
it just must be exhausting.
Yeah.
So, with Genevieve, what can we learn from this to apply into maybe listening skills or
Mm.
respecting
Mm.
boundaries?
Yes. So number one, and this is something they teach you in counseling school, don't eat the random berries is first. That's 101. That's day one. They tell you
Yep,
that.
yep.
And then on day two, they tell you if somebody doesn't want you in their house, you should probably leave. Those are not actually things you learn in counseling school, but I think they are things that every person should think about, which
Yeah.
which is knowing n- knowing where people draw their lines and respecting those lines. Now, again, they're in I'm actually in Genevieve's case, I'm glad she stuck around. If we look at the
Yeah.
fantastical elements of
Yeah.
this, I would probably do what she did. Again, not for belonging for the crows. I really can't emphasize to you enough. I can't say this with enough gusto. I'm not leaving the premises until these crows leave me alone. I'll do
Yeah.
whatever you want after that. And there's a hedge maze outside of the front of their
Oh,
house,
yeah.
and the
And
fact that
it's
she's
snowing
yeah, oh
too.
yeah, it's chilly. It's
Cool.
the vibes are there. Um and she's a specter, so she just walks right through. They try to like trick her with the hedge maze. She just walks right through the hedge maze
Yeah.
and up to the thing. So they try to kind of keep these physical boundaries are representations maybe of emotional boundaries that people have about this.
Mm.
So I think Genevieve has a kind of desperation that goes beyond what we might see usually. If we were to take the fantastical out of this and apply it to the real world space, boundaries um are devices by which we help folks understand what we can and cannot handle within an interpersonal relationship.
Mm.
And it's really interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day, a psych podcast, and they talked about boundaries are not only things that involve someone sort of stopping what they're doing or sort of pulling up on their actions, but also they involve action from us, that it's incumbent upon us to act and move through the world in certain ways that communicate and establish our boundaries.
Mm.
So let's take this house example, and let's take it
Yeah.
out of the fantastical and take it into the real world. You have someone who's coming to your house and they are not wanted at your house, and you're saying, I don't want to let you in. My boundary is I don't want you inside my house.
Yeah.
The boundary you set is not only don't come in my house, but involves speaking about what a consequence might be if the boundary is crossed.
Right.
So I do not want you to enter my house. If you try to enter my house despite that fact, then I'm going to have to call the cops and like
I thought
get
you were
you
gonna
off
go
my
with
lawn.
I thought
No,
you were gonna
oh,
be
I'm
like,
not.
"I'm a"
No. I'm not gonna get. Let me be very clear about this. Like, I don't condone like lawn violence,
I
front
was
lawn
like, "Where
violence.
are we going with
No,
this
it's a okay. If you do not respect
Yeah, Imma call
what
the
I'm
cops.
saying,
Yeah.
here's what happens next.
Yeah.
If we take a more like a chiller example, you can say something like, hey, I need some alone time today. I really need
Yeah.
time to have time to myself, and I've been around people a lot lately, so I just need time to
Yeah.
myself. If my boundary around alone time can't be respected in this space, I might just go ahead and go for a walk or leave
Mhm.
and get the alone time that I need in the way that works. So
Yeah.
it's twofold. It's here's where I need you to stop, but also here's what I'm going to do to make
Yeah.
sure that my boundary is maintained.
And that's self-care too.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes. Boundaries are really difficult.
Yeah.
Boundaries are a labor because it requires that I be honest with you and let you know
Yeah.
what I need. And
Mhm.
sometimes what I need is at odds with what you need. And so
Yeah.
this is not something that always comes naturally to folks. It's not something that even can feel pleasant in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
I think people misconstrue self-care as it always feels pleasant, and it doesn't. There are
Yeah.
times where self-care is a labor. It requires emotional labor from you. So, helping clients to learn where are my stopping points and what kind of structures do I need to put in place to make sure that that stopping point is
Mm.
established. Now, none of these characters go about any of that in what we would call a counselor sanctioned fashion.
Yeah.
So Genevieve definitely does not respect Rowan's house boundaries,
Yeah.
but also once she's in the house, number one, those are consequences, girl. Like you rolled
That's the
up,
consequence,
that's a
yeah.
consequence. They told you not to come in. They told you to get out of
He
here.
slammed the door in your face
He
multiple times. Read the room.
literally closed the door in your face,
Yeah.
and you decided that you were not going to respect that boundary. I will
Yeah.
also say that once she gets into the house and figures out what the hell's about to
She's like, "I gotta
happen,
go."
and the siblings are very brutal with her. They're
Yeah.
like, there are some siblings who kind of take more pity on her
Yeah.
because she didn't realize what was all going on. There's some siblings who are quite bloodthirsty, and they're like,
Yeah.
welcome to the what are they? What's that song?
The hunt.
The Hunt. No,
Oh,
no, no. It's like I don't
welcome to
remember.
the
It's like some
shit
kind of
show or something?
shit. That's it. Welcome to the shit show. You signed up. You didn't even know,
Yeah, and
and now you're stuck.
I feel like they also may be thinking that, like, "Oh, shit, she's gonna, like, ruin what we got going on," or,
Mm.
like, she might add some other element or something.
Yeah, each of the siblings has very distinct personalities.
Yeah.
There are some that come to the forefront, and then there's others that you don't see as much.
Yes.
So I think the ones that stick out most to me are
Mhm.
Grave, L, and Seven.
Mhm.
L and
And Remy too.
um, I suppose I almost saw him more as a plot device than a
Right,
fully
yeah, he came around to mess
formed.
some stuff up.
Yeah, yeah. He was there to complicate things, but I think Seven and L,
Yeah,
despite
that's
being
true.
still being bloodthirsty, kind of like Genevieve.
Yeah.
They end up kind of being her friend, even though they're like they show up and they're like, "I'm sorry, I have to try to kill you." Like that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Um, and then Grave for a lot of it is
He's
big
the
bad, big bad.
Yeah, he's pretty much, like, the main villain. He's, like, one of the villainy
Mhm. It's
things.
like villain with a question mark at the
Yeah.
end. So yeah.
So, basically, the team decided
The whole crew.
in order to protect Genevieve, Rowan decides to marry her in
Ah!
order for them to play as a couple.
Mm,
So this is a decision was made without her consent. He
yeah,
was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna marry you."
yeah, and she tries to be like, "No, you're not. No, you're
Yeah.
not." And then
But
she her
I think, this was a way in order to keep her alive and
yeah.
also something that Knox, which is the main devil, who he would agree to this because it would be more entertaining.
Oh, yeah, and I think part of Rowan's reasoning is that her presence in the games helps him in some way. I don't remember. It's like helping
Like
his mom.
their
Yeah.
prize.
Yeah, there's some the pri in getting the prize, also being the favored one, which you get,
Yeah.
something from, the Devil's
You get
Trove.
yeah.
There are compelling reasons that
Yeah.
Rowan wants to marry Genevieve that have nothing to do with Genevieve, so he's not this, like, maniacal, like, I will have this woman, like,
Yeah, no,
creep.
it's
He's
just so he
got
can win.
Yeah, he's got other motives,
Yeah.
and Genevieve at first it says
I'm
very
not marrying
vehemently
you.
no, and then she very quickly realizes she is outmatched, she is
Yeah.
outgunned. It's do this or
and she
die.
and she's literally like, "Can I marry anyone else?" Because she obviously they hate
Which,
each other, but I'm
oh
like,
my god.
and he's like, "No, you're mine. I chose
Oh
to
my
marry
god.
you, and that's what's
He
happening."
is When he opens that door and is described as, like, he's 6'5", he's got black,
Ooh,
like, wavy hair,
that's my
he's got
vibe.
a lip ring and tattoos, and
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you don't wanna marry this one. This one is
she's.
not the one you wanna marry. Oh
Well, I
my
mean, I
god.
think she was like down to marry Remy because obviously he's the twin,
Ugh,
but she just didn't want
whatever.
to be with Rowan.
Oh my god. This is also one of these moments where if I were in the situation, I recognize that I probably wouldn't be down to marry somebody in a haunted house somewhere. Again, I wouldn't have eaten the berries, wouldn't have gone in anyway.
Yeah.
But the crows, it always comes back to the crows. Um, but but
I feel
as
like I would have been like, "Sure, let's see where this goes." I'm down.
you're like, well, she almost dies because of the berries.
Exactly, and he has to carry her and
Oh,
all
he
that and, like,
does.
survive.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, if I saw that man in the
Mm.
door
I'll be
frame,
like,
I
"I'll
I
take the
think
risk."
I think when it came time to the marriage, I'd be a little bit like, I could do worse.
Yeah.
I could do worse in this game of life and death.
Yeah. So, the hunt is something that has been happening for a long time to the Silver family, which is a family curse organized by Nox, a demon devil, and they win a year of freedom, like we discussed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like this type of manipulation Nox has over this
Mm,
family is so cruel.
yeah.
And I was just like, I can't really believe that it's an actual thing. So Genevieve and Rowan have their wedding immediately
Right away.
because,
Can't wait.
it needed to happen, I think, that day before it became nighttime. I think
Yes.
12 a.m. That's when, like, the hunt starts or
It had
something.
to start they had to be married before the hunt.
Yes.
Because if Genevieve dies, she dies for
Dies, die.
real. And
Yeah.
so it's not like she goes to some other dimension. She actually
Yeah.
dies. So there was a timing component around making sure that Genevieve lived.
Yeah, and they had a really sexy masquerade ball, which sounded
Yes.
so cool.
Mhm. Yes.
And of course, in this masquerade ball, because obviously the ball was kind of like a celebratory thing, Knox was trying to trick her and Rowan with a passion fruit drink, which
Passion
I love
fruit.
passion fruit, but passion fruit in this book is different.
It's not it's not the yummy refresher drink you get at Starbucks. It's a horny juice.
Yes, so as we say, passion fruit. So
Mhm.
it's gonna give you lots of passion.
Quite literally. So
And
many feelings.
and so much passion that
Passion.
Rowan
I'm just like your hype woman. I'm like, passion.
Rowan had to tie himself up to hold himself back. If you know, if I attract you so much that you have to tie yourself,
You have to hold
well,
yourself back.
people don't
Oh.
do it like this these
No.
days.
People don't tie themselves. People don't have their sisters tie them up. Oh my god.
You're
And
so
Genevieve.
deranged with passion
Oh
that you
my
just
god.
gotta.
And Genevieve not trying to hold back at all. She goes to find him.
Yeah.
She's in it.
Oh yeah, because
She's honing in. She's
she's
all of a
like,
sudden he doesn't look like such a bad option when she had the passion
because
fruit drink.
secretly she found
She's
him
in
attractive.
it. Yeah. But if you were just honest with yourself, Genevieve,
Yeah.
maybe. But I thought it was really chivalrous of him because he was
Right.
like, you are high on this passion fruit juice. We are
Yeah.
not
I
doing
thought that was
things.
cute.
I thought that was very respectful. That was very
He seems like a good
consent.
guy.
Yeah, he seems like a real stand-up gentleman. Um, but he basically I think it's a great look at consent talk.
Yeah.
He knows that her judgment is compromised magically, and he knows that she might regret this if
Or
they
he
do
might
some.
also regret it
He
too.
I don't know if he would. I think he was a simp pretty early on.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think he definitely fell first
Yeah.
personally, but um he says, "Not while we're on this juice. Later, when we're not
Yeah.
on this juice, if
He's
you
like, "You
still
can't
feel
handle
the,"
me."
he said, "You can't handle the truth," and the truth is the warhammer that he's packing.
Oh my god.
um, and she's very upset by it, but she works it out. And
Yeah, I think they just got through it, right? I don't remember.
okay, so there is a part where he tells her to masturbate
Oh,
and
yes,
he
yes, yes, yes.
watches. So I think
Oh,
that's this
yeah.
part. He
Yeah, and then leaves
basically,
her hanging.
well, no, he goes, I want you to show me how you like we will
Mm.
make sure that you get what you need, but
Oh,
it's going to
right.
be from you and not from me.
Got
So
it.
it's not completely satisfying for
Yeah,
her,
yeah.
but it sort of it fans the flames of the passion.
Yeah, so they kinda get through that.
They
Um,
kind of get through it.
and also I forgot to mention, in the house, she notices that there's all these, like, mirrors through
Mm.
the house. I think in the rooms there's not, or it's
Oh,
at least it's, like, covered up.
well, any covering up, I think, comes from the players themselves. They're
Right,
constantly
covering up.
throwing towels and blankets over the mirrors to thwart basically the
'Cause that's how the
voyeuristic devils.
Yeah, 'cause that's how they kinda watch the trials and watch all the
Mhm.
spicy stuff go on.
And they're very strategic about when they want to uncover a mirror and show the devils something that they want to
Exactly.
see. And
Yeah.
that's also a point of contention between them, is Rowan's constantly being like, "Remember, we're being watched. We have
Yeah.
to put on a good show."
Yeah.
Again, Hunger Games style,
It's so like Hunger Games.
except more sex and in a haunted
Yeah.
mansion.
Yeah, of giving more phantom versus, like,
Mhm.
other
Dystopian
Yeah, out in the
technology.
jungle and stuff.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the winner, and the favored gets, like, an extra prize, so Genevieve and Rowan are kinda trying to, like you said, like, put on a show and really convince them to win those things. So, when the hunt starts, basically all of the siblings are against each other, and they try to kill Genevieve first, like, they just wanna kill her off.
Mm,
Specifically Grave, like, he is intense, like,
yeah.
he's, like, the main guy in all of these trials who's, like, really just, like, down to win
Mhm.
finally and wants to, like, go ham and kill everyone.
Well, and I think what you find out later is that Rowan's objective every year when he wins, he believes that he can find a cure to Crimson Rot, that he can,
Mm,
like,
yeah,
save his family, and every year it doesn't work. And
yeah.
so Grave wants to win to kind of approach this getting out of this deal in a different way, I think.
I think he just wants to enjoy freedom.
And that too, that
Yeah.
too. And it's interesting because so there's this magical knife that kind of picks who gets to pick the game of the night.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, I think Grave gets first pick.
Yeah,
It's real intense, and he
yeah.
immediately comes for
'Cause it's like,
Genevieve.
I think the first one is where they have to, like, hide. Like, he picks,
Mhm.
like, oh, like, everyone has to hide or have a hiding spot or something, and
Yep.
Grave has to go
Well, and
literally hide and seek.
what yes, elevated hide and seek with a deadly knife. The other thing that's important to highlight here is that all of their magic disappears while the game is on.
Mm,
So I think what makes this more believable is the fact that Genevieve survives while the others don't have their magic. If they had their
yeah.
magic,
Yeah, that
I'm
wouldn't be
sorry, but
fair.
she
She
would have
would've been
been
gone.
gonzo bonzo the first 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
because Grave has this void magic, he's
Oh, yeah,
so
he's the
fucking
strongest one.
powerful. It would be
I'm
no
kinda
problem.
into him.
You're like, why are we not focusing more on Grave? Who
Who
knows? Who
knows
knows? There's
where
more
this
books
goes?
afoot, you know?
So Grave pretty much ends up killing Remy in that game. first I don't remember, not gonna give all the details of the whole game and all of that, but, um, Genevieve and Rowan, I'm like, all these names. They enter a room of what heaven looks like, and it's, like,
Mm.
very beautiful, and I think this is, like, the next game. It's a game within a game where they have to solve, to get immunity to the next round. So, pretty much all of the rounds, you can try to solve something in order to get immunity where you can chill for the next
Well,
one.
and I think what's enticing about these games within games is they give you a place to hide and they look initially idyllic. And so they kind of trick you and lure
Yeah.
you in. Genevieve's like, "Well, why don't we just go do that? Why are we running around this house like idiots?" And Rowan explains that you go in there and it looks idyllic, but there's a
Mm.
game, and if you lose, like, there are consequences,
Yeah.
and in order to win, there's always a challenge, and it's not pleasant. And so
Yeah.
going into one of these games within a game is a risk. You don't know what
Mm.
you're getting. You don't know what kind of challenge is going to exist in the game within a game, but it kind of protects you from the game itself a little
Yeah.
bit, and you can earn that immunity. So I did like in the structure of the game, there was tension and a kind of a push-pull in your choices. Every
Yeah.
choice you make has potential upsides and potential downsides.
Yeah.
Where you decide to hide, and all of these siblings have been playing this game for so
Oh,
long,
yeah, they know all the hiding spots,
they're
I'm
on
sure.
lockdown, and they know
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
They Rowan says, "Oh,
Grave is gonna go there.
Grave
Yeah.
always picks this game first,
Yeah.
and Elle's gonna pick this game," and they know each other to that
Yeah.
level, which is wild.
Yeah. So, like, that's a good point to leave off. So how do we think these trials, like, every year affects this family with,
Oh, wow.
some feelings? What you think can be held there?
Mm, that's a great question, because I think it affects them on so many levels. Because and you see there's this interesting dynamic in the family where they know each other so well.
Yeah.
They're so connected to each other's particularities, the way they think, the way they operate, like any sibling would be. I
Right.
I have a brother, and there's some stuff in there that's very sibling. It's just, I know you so well, and I can razz you or
Yeah.
pick on you, or you kind of, you get very much that sibling feeling,
Yeah.
but it's overlaid with just this torturous violence that has to be perpetuated against each
Mhm.
other. And so I think what could have been a really cool sibling dynamic between the group of them, that includes arguments and other things, I don't think they would have been perfect,
Yeah.
but uh, I think that version of them as a family is totally muddled by the fact that they have to be violent toward each other. And you see how much it tortures them. And you see people handling it different ways. Some of the siblings, you can see the pain that it causes them. Some siblings are more reserved. Like, I
Mm.
think Remy is one of those that's a little bit more reserved in my mind. Or Grave, who tries to kind of shut people down and
Yeah.
just focus.
And I think Wellington is one where,
Mm,
he's not really seen too much, and I
yeah.
remember her mentioning, like, peeking into a room and this guy one of the siblings was, like, stabbing himself or doing
He's
something.
the other blood one. He's the
Yes.
him and Seven are
Oh,
the
okay.
ones that survive off blood.
So we don't know too much about Wellington, or he doesn't really come out to play too much, but
Mhm.
yeah, she does notice, like, he's a little off.
Yeah, and so even there's at one point a family dinner, and
Oh, yeah.
for a birthday celebration, they stab their own dad in the back over and over
'Cause
again,
wasn't it
Barrington.
Genevieve's birthday?
Yes, it was Genevieve's birthday, and they stabbed their father. Now, stabbing doesn't mean the same thing to you and I as it does to Barrington Silver. He doesn't die, it just kinda hurts him a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a bitterness between the siblings toward their parents, in particular toward their father, and there is a torturous, uh almost apologetic violence between them, where there were a couple of different instances where someone killed someone else and goes, "I'm sorry. Like this is just I have to do this. I just have to. Somebody has to win, and I c- it I won't be the one to lose." And so there's a brutality between them that is caused by these games, and I think it tortures several of the siblings for that to be true. I also think it really tortures Rowan because he's the one that wins every year. He's the one that gets the freedom. He's the one that's supposed to have the answers. And so he particularly goes through the process every year of killing every one of his siblings.
Yeah, that could
And
be the worst, I
yeah,
feel.
I'm sure there's some kind of soul death that happens
Yeah.
when you look your siblings in the eye, who, again, your regular siblings you're arguing, but I think you can see real love between them
Yeah.
in their own way, and to have to do that to people, have to do that to your own twin, that's
Mm.
that's a price that no person
Mm.
should have to pay. And so, um, as a sibling, I can
Yeah.
feel how much that would hurt to have to hurt my sibling
Yeah.
for a game that someone else is controlling. That just feels awful. So
Yeah.
I really feel for them.
I'm an only child, but I get it. I would also feel the
Mm.
same way. But I think also the element of like the worry of their mom too
Mm.
with the Crimson Raw and all of that. It's just
Yeah.
there's a lot of elements here
They're
that
held in stasis. They
yeah.
can't. There's not a way out.
Yeah, so kind of Genevieve and Rowan end up winning that little heaven game within a game in
Mhm.
that room, and they get immunity for like the rest
Yeah.
of the day.
Which also, we haven't mentioned that each sibling has a familiar, and Rowan's
Oh,
familiar
yeah.
is the fox.
Oh,
And the
yeah, cute
fox, oh my
fox.
god, I
I
want
forgot the
that
fox's
fox
name.
for my pet. I want to say
Umbra.
Umbra.
Is it Umbra? I think it's
I
Umbra.
thought one of them is named Lilith. I do know that, but I can't remember which one it is. They
Uh,
all have one.
I think the fox is Umbra,
Mm.
because in the later parts they talk about and that she was laying down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the fox is a little bit cool toward Genevieve toward the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Then in this particular immunity game,
Mm.
she saves Umbra from piranhas and
Yes.
almost dies in the process.
Yeah.
And then Umbra is her best friend. And I
Aw.
just love a little familiar. I love
Yeah,
a
it's
little
cute.
so friggin' cute.
I don't
Love
remember
it.
the other people's
There
familiars.
one was a snake. I think that might
Gross.
have I don't quite remember the others, but they all had one. They all, and some of them, they talk about the relationships between the familiars are different. Some of them have more control over a familiar, or you can spirit away your familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Rowan seems to have more of a free range parenting policy on the on his familiar. So Umbra's almost always corporeal, like almost always outside of
Yeah.
himself running around, whereas
Cute.
some of them they'll get spirited away and then come out when they're needed.
Yeah. So interesting. They don't really talk about it too much. If not, I
Mhm.
feel like I would have remembered a little
Mm.
bit more.
Mm.
But so they get immunity for that rest of the day,
Mhm.
and they take a little trip to hell to visit to visit his
Which
mom.
I
And
always felt like when it got to this point, I was like, "That's where you want to go? Okay, like,
where else would
sure."
they go, I guess?
I guess, yeah. Anyway,
I guess it was just to escape the house, get out of the house a
Mhm.
bit, you know?
Yeah,
So
whatever you gotta do.
so they went to hell to visit his mom and other siblings there. And Knox kind of was telling, because obviously Knox is in hell, and
Mhm.
they're going to his house or wherever he rules
When
there.
they die,
Yeah.
they basically pop up into his house, and
Yeah.
you watch. I think Seven dies, and you watch him show up in the house, and it's like torture.
Yeah.
But they show up in his house, and then they are locked into servitude to Knox to do whatever he wants them to do for the next year.
So Knox tried to lure her, he was
Mhm.
like, "Come on, I gotta show you something at some point."
Mm. Mm.
To choose an item from his treasure box and make a deal.
Yep.
Obviously she's very aware. She was always taught not to make deals with devils and all of that. And let me name some of the things that were offered or that were there. So there was a golden locket, which
Mm.
is called a soul locket, which she recognized that it's just like Ophelia's.
Oh, yes.
There are coin purses that can never empty. I could use one of those.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
potions for strength and beauty, a potion for memory loss that will like remove all like those negative memories that you have. And what's the other potion?
Mm.
The cure for crimson rot.
Would you look at
This
that?
guy.
Look at that.
So the price for the potion, that is the price for the cure is to convince Salem to return to hell. And that is something where it's like she would have to kind of lie to him or kind of get him to do that. Because pretty much Salem, in Phantasma was able to escape the king of hell, like his father's reign or whatever, and they really want him back and want him back to have control over him.
Mm.
So she's just like, I can't ask of that.
Mm.
I can't ask him for that. Basically, she ended up saying no to all of those things. And
Well, I think she chooses, so we don't know this at the time,
yes.
but she chooses something. But one of the parts of the deal that Knox makes is she's not gonna remember the conversation or whatever
Yeah.
happened when she leaves. So she's walking out and she goes, "Really remember this. It's really important that you what am I remembering?"
Yeah.
And we don't know at that point what
Yeah,
she
it wasn't it
picks.
it was, like, described as, like, she didn't choose anything, but obviously, like, a little bit later, I mean, do I just say it or
I mean, that's up to you, girl.
so, okay, maybe later.
Okay. I respect your choices, girl. I respect the outline, girl.
So, I thought this was a really interesting moment with Knox
Mm.
preying on Genevieve's guilt and, like, trauma.
Sure.
So, do we see situations like this in the therapy space where individuals are manipulated by their guilt, shame, and experiences to appease others?
Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
100%.
Hundo P. Yes, we see that a lot.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I really like about this moment between Knox and Genevieve before she then forgets it
Yeah.
is he says, "I'll give you this bloodroot potion in exchange for Salem." And I think there could have been some authors that would draw it out and make her be like, "Should I do this? It would be betraying, da da da." She
Yeah.
immediately is
She
like,
was quickly no.
"No.
Yeah.
There's not a version of this where I pick that
Mhm.
at the expense of my loved ones. There's no
Yeah.
no way. No way."
And
And
I like that she was true with that.
oh my
It wasn't
gosh.
like a debate or a back and forth.
No, it was a simple and a living by her values that I thought was a great showing of strength on her
Mhm.
part. What I do think this moment emulates within the everyday space is when folks know you so well that they use what they know about you
Oh,
to
that's
manipulate
I
you.
hate that.
And we as counselors hope it never happens to a person,
Yeah.
and it happens to a lot of people.
Mm.
Even if you look at things, guilt as it's used within family systems, or guilt that's used within religious entities, not always, but there it's a use of emotion to get you to act in a certain way or act in a way that I think you should act. Now,
Mm.
what's important to recognize here is that there's a difference between guilt and shame. There's sometimes when you do something that's outside of your values, or you do something that is not productive for your life, where having a sense of guilt can be good. If I say something that is really hurtful to you and mindless and I'm just spouting off and I feel guilt after that, that can be really formative. I can learn something from that and go, I need to learn to watch my tongue. Like
Mm,
I've just said something and it really upset someone else
yeah.
that I need to regulate. However, it's when guilt or shame is applied to something that it doesn't need guilt or shame applied to it for someone else's purposes. If I'm going to you and saying, well, Yarlin, you really should be doing this, because if you don't, you're really going to hurt me, or it's really going to, what about me, like if you're going to do this, think about how this is going to impact your, fill in the blank of a family member, or
Yeah.
there's a way to use guilt as a
The
manipulator.
worst.
And what I will tell you is there's not an all or nothing here. Sometimes you need to feel guilty about stuff in order to regulate your behavior.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are using guilt to change your actions or change your way of being, to fit their purposes. And so my thoughts here are, one, if you are the person that is applying guilt for manipulative purposes, there are ways to get your needs met that don't involve manipulating people. And if you feel like you need to manipulate someone in order to get your needs met, I would encourage you to do some self-reflection on, how might I get both of our needs met,
Mhm.
and make sure that I'm honoring and being honest about my intentions, being honest about our relationship in a way that's healthful for both of us. If you are on the receiving end of guilt that you feel is unjustified, if you feel like someone is trying to manipulate you into feeling bad about something that you don't feel is justified, doing some self-reflection about, where is this guilt coming from? Who
Yeah.
owns it? Is it something that I want to be a part of the way I understand my
Mhm.
experience? And understand when you might have to choose to forge your own path, even if someone doesn't agree with you or wants you to feel guilty about it. And this is all stuff that happens within counseling. We can take in a person's unique circumstances and help them explore this.
Yeah.
Help them explore, is this guilt helpful? Does this guilt do something for my growth or development? Or is this guilt that's designed to keep me from something that I really want to do or want to achieve or want to explore?
Yeah.
And every circumstance is going to be different. So the main principles around guilt and deciphering it, I think, have to do a lot with awareness building of yourself and of the relationship that you're in, whether it's platonic or romantic.
Yeah. And
And
I
that's what counselors help people do.
Pretty much, and I think a lot of that self-awareness and recognizing certain things is what we do help. We don't tell people what to do or
Exactly.
how to feel, anything like that. We help our clients come to those conclusions themselves, you know?
It's so interesting because I think folks who have seen therapy depicted on television or in movies, they think that counseling, they'll come in, you like say your problems in a monologue, and then I
Yeah.
give you the answer to your life.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me bestow this wisdom upon you. And then you float into the distance, all your problems solved.
Yeah.
In reality, you know yourself better than anybody else does. And it's not up to me to provide you with the answers to your life. I think that'd be pretty presumptuous of us as
Mhm.
counselors.
Yeah.
My job is to help you explore your space, recognize your strengths, and help you to forge a path that works for you,
Right.
to help you decide, okay, what are my values here? And in what ways can I live up to my values and live in a way that promotes my well-being and promotes the well-being of others around me?
Yeah, and it's an unbiased person that will be able to give you those type of conversations and support that you may not have, and I think that should be, like, the explanation of what therapy is versus, like, "I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna get all the answers from
Yeah.
you.
Unfortunately,
I don't got the answers."
it does involve labor on your part. That's clients sometimes will be like, man, this is really hard work. And it's like, yeah, it
Yeah.
is changing. Think of it as if you go to a personal trainer at a gym. This is the emotional equivalent, the cognitive equivalent
Mm.
of personal training.
Yeah.
And yes, it can be a comforting place. Yes, it can be of course we celebrate wins with clients. There are things that are pleasant about it.
Yeah.
Of course. And it's emotional labor. It's called that for a reason. It's because you're putting in the work to do paradigm shifts and
Yeah.
to work on your emotional and cognitive world.
Yeah. So it's really impactful things, and I thought that was something where I'm just like, Knox is like just preying upon like Genevieve's like all of these feelings, especially the guilt and all of that with
Mm,
Salem and trying to help
mm,
Rowan and them trying to solve their mom's crimson rot. It's like, really?
yeah.
So, in this final game, like the
Mm.
next round, Knox adjusted it, of course, because he wasn't happy with, I guess, a certain outcome. And the prize was if Genevieve is killed within an hour, Rowan and his siblings would be free forever. So now what do we
Oh.
think this would have? Ultimate chaos, of course.
Yeah.
Everyone will be going crazy wanting to kill
Yeah.
her because you're telling me that if I kill this girl, everyone will be free?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I think too echoes that Hunger Games piece. It's the
Yeah.
game maker part of it, where Knox is essentially saying this isn't exciting enough. There's not
Exactly.
enough bloodshed happening, which is so ridiculous because it's
Yeah.
plenty plenty violent. But they
They
want a
want more.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially those like um uh twisted turns and things like
Mm.
that. He wants just more viewers and
Mhm.
more.
Which I do wanna point out that they do give him a show at
Yeah.
one point.
Yeah.
There is,
A
uh,
sex show.
there it's a sexual
A
show.
sex
It's
show.
it's, if you've ever been to Amsterdam, like that.
Oh, red light district.
This is, it's a show.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I thought that
Yeah.
was one of the hottest things that happened in that
I
entire
think
book.
that was so they could win favored, right?
Yes, yeah, they
Yeah.
they both were like, "You ready? You ready to put on a show?"
Let's do this.
Well, and the it was I think, just as in Phantasma, there are certain kinks you can highlight, especially praise kink was a big one for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
This is to me a little bit exhibitionism kink. It's
Yeah.
that and I know for some folks like watching yourself in a mirror is very hot. And so there was a
Yeah.
mirror involved, which means there was people watching. They
Exactly.
thought it was a grand
It
old
thought
time. They
yeah.
they loved it. They loved it. We loved it. It
I was like,
was
"Wow, okay."
yeah, I have lots of thoughts about that I'm not gonna share here, but it was, I think, one of the most excellent
Yeah.
moments, spice-wise.
Yeah, it was a good one. So now with this new kind of like rule or like the prize hanging over everyone's head, what happens? And obviously there's like another piece of this that we don't learn about later until later, but Rowan turns on her and kind of
Mhm.
gives her this like kind of like sheepish grin or whatever it was described as
Mm.
like just no emotion like showing like I'm gonna get you now. So
Mhm.
she,
Mhm.
it's assumed that he like turned on her and was kind of like really going after her and trying to kill her.
Mhm.
So I was
Everybody
like, whoa,
whoa, whoa, whoa,
whoa, how
whoa.
the heck did that happen? And I was so surprised that he turned on her, but I mean,
See, they have a small conversation before this betrayal,
yeah.
air quotes, where she tries to give them a plan and the plan is nondescript. And he
Ah.
says, hold on, it's one of my teehees, if I
Well,
may.
cause was it what did you talk to Knox about or whatever?
I don't
And
remember
he didn't wanna tell her.
the full conversation, but I do remember him saying basically like, "You're brilliant and you're amazing, and I'm not sure this plan's gonna work." And then it's nondescript.
Oh,
She puts
okay.
out there a plan, but we don't know what it is.
Got
And
it.
so we zoom to this and
Mm.
we are aghast and aflutter,
Perplexed.
perplexed and mixed up
Yeah.
about what exactly was her plan. Is this her plan?
Yeah, it was
Who's
really
doing what?
confusing.
Yeah.
So, there was a quote on here that I thought was good to mention, something that Rowan says in this
Mhm.
moment of, like, turning on her, because she was like, "I thought you loved me," or, like, something like that.
She was actress 5,000, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
She really
she
went
was
for it.
Emmy award or whatever
Mm.
award.
Which
Oscar?
oh,
An Oscar.
all of them, honestly. Uh, one of the things that I really, really like about her character
Yeah.
and this is throughout, is she portrays this sweet, innocent, doe-eyed, and she knows
Yeah.
what she's doing. She goes, I'm gonna turn my charm on and I'm gonna bat my eyelashes and I'll be the cute, sweet girl that you think I am. And so she's been acting very
Yeah.
pretty. She has moments where she puts on an act for people
Mm.
and gets them to fall for her and
Yeah.
fall for her stuff. And
Yeah.
so she's prepared for actress level. She's ready for
She's turning it
Oscars.
up.
Yeah.
So he tells her,
Mm.
love, loathing, same passion, different names, and how easily and swiftly the line can be blurred.
Oof.
So,
And he's using the shadows, by the way, at this point.
oh yeah,
He's got shadows on her wrists, shadows on her neck.
yeah. So as we kind of think about later, it was kind of part of a plan that
Mhm.
was discussed. We don't learn about literally until like some little epilogues chapters later.
Mhm.
So can you expand on how passion of like love and hate
Mm.
can be similar?
Yeah. So it's I think folks are, whether within counseling or in their just day-to-day lives, are trying to figure out their feelings and trying to figure out what they mean. How
Yeah.
can I label this feeling, or what is this, or and there's a two-step process that's happening, right?
Mm.
There's the feeling itself, what's happening in your body, what's happening emotionally. And then there's that cognitive layer that's layered on top, which is what meaning do I apply to the feeling? And people like to think that when they have a feeling, they'll just know it. They just, if I have a feeling, it'll just be
Yeah.
my gut instinct.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that sometimes feelings can feel similar in your body. We've
Mm.
talked about this in a previous episode, but sometimes like nervousness and butterflies,
Yeah.
romantic butterflies, can be misconstrued as one another.
Mm.
Sometimes you might feel one that I hear sometimes is people will say, my ears get really hot. And sometimes that's embarrassment and sometimes that's
Yeah.
anger.
Oh
And
yeah.
so you
Yeah.
think you have a schema, or you have a cognitive idea of what your emotions mean. And sometimes you discover that there's a disconnect between the emotion or the experience and then the meaning that you've layered on top of it.
Yeah.
So this is where I think things like hate and love are they can both be, if we think of love as a feeling and not a skill, which again we've also talked about that.
Yeah.
If you think of passion, let's call it passion and hate.
Yeah.
There can be crossover. You
Yeah.
know, you can like feel like a heat in your chest or your core. You can
Yeah.
feel tension building. There's things that can be similar about that.
Mm.
And you can definitely exploit that for your own ends.
Yeah.
If anyone has ever heard anybody talk about, and I'm gonna be crass, hate fucking, like
Oh
you
yeah.
can see how that kind of passion can accumulate together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where this line is coming from.
Mhm.
What I will say is that if you are only ever acting from a place of heightened emotional passion, one, that's an intense place to be all the time. And two, you have to be discerning at some point regarding what those feelings are doing to your ability to think cognitively.
Yeah, because you're probably not. You're probably making some unhealthy choices and just like really very emotional
I would say if you're there
decisions.
for too long, right? Like
Yeah.
small humans are emotional beings.
Mm.
Small amounts of that
It
it
happens.
happens,
Yeah.
dude. That's the spice of life, you know?
Yeah.
If you see something and you get really passionate or emotional about
Yeah.
it, that's one of the great joys of feeling and being human, and we
Yeah. We're
love
not robots.
no, and we love that. Feel, you know, get
Yeah.
out there and feel and be connected to your emotions. We're all for that. And if you're only ever making decisions with with the emotional part of yourself,
Yeah.
you're leaving all of your cognition
And the
to
logic out of it.
float. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really what we work on in counseling is integrating them both.
Yeah.
Having the self-awareness. Okay, if we're talking about this moment, which there's a bigger plan here, so it kind of
Yeah.
unfolds, but let's distill this moment, and there's a
Yeah.
heated moment, and they're like love, hate, it's all kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being able to track your emotion and go, I am feeling some kind of way about this. I'm feeling
Mm.
passion, I'm feeling heat. Part of me hates this person, part of me really loves this, and
Yeah.
I'm confused about that. And then you can, from that place, make decisions that fit for you.
Yeah.
So, and what I would say is if you're feeling this way, if you're feeling a lot of intense emotions, you can ask for space a lot of times. You can ask for a moment to breathe, a moment
Yeah.
to reflect.
Regulate yourself.
Yeah.
That's
And
the big thing.
you can also choose to lean in
Yeah.
and just recognize, okay, what are the consequences? Like I
Mm.
know there'll be consequences later, and I kind of don't care, and I'm going to lean into this passion right now.
Yeah.
So it's a calculation a little bit. It's like, how much self-awareness do I want to have, and when do I want to let it go and just lean into whatever's going on in this moment?
We have free will. You make that decision for yourself.
You make that decision for yourself. And let me tell you something, we as counselors empower you to make the decision that's going to work for you. We
Yeah.
also empower you after the moment is over and after you've kind of seen, okay, I felt this way and I picked this path, to reflect on that and go, how did that work for me?
Yeah.
If it really worked for you, well, great. Okay. If there was something within that sort of passioned state that you, when you reflect, you're like, I really would like to do this next time, or here's
Yeah.
how I'd like to shift the way I handle things. It can be both. It can be living in the moment when you would like to and choosing that thoughtfully, and then
Kind of reflecting. Yeah.
always a loop of
Yeah.
experiencing and reflecting.
Yeah. So, it was a really important like way where it's like I'm sure she was feeling so many feelings. She was feeling like, whoa.
Mm.
But we know that it was part of a plan.
We figure out later she had deeper thoughts, but like if we distill down what
I
that
was like,
moment,
whoa, yeah.
yeah, if we distill that moment down, and that moment is written at the very top of the book too. It's at the prologue, so that's the first thing you read. And I
Yeah.
just remember thinking, when are we getting to that moment?
Yeah.
When does that happen?
So
Yeah.
this master plan Genevieve created with Rowan, and it was to get kind of the siblings on board to convince Knox to trap Genevieve's soul in the locket. So this we can assume she chose the soul locket from the
This is
little
where we discuss. We're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
what you took.
everything made sense.
Yes.
So ultimately, it was to like entertain the viewers and not to actually kill her, or probably another act of emotional torture done by Knox. Of like, I thought about like, oh yeah, he probably would receive a lot of like, kind of good feelings of like knowing that she was like trapped in this locket and like their love can never be.
Well, I think so. The way they play this, I think, is really smart because Knox doesn't get exactly what he wanted, which is her dead.
Right.
But it puts her in a position where Knox thinks, okay, she's not dead, but or there's a soul here that's still floating about, but it's tortured. Like he thinks he's won.
Exactly.
He's gotten his show.
Yeah.
But they have this soul locket and they have intentions of doing something different.
So they end up they meaning like Rowan, and I think I can't remember which other brother went to deliver.
It was Grave, I think.
Was it Grave?
Grave
Oh
and
yeah.
Rowan, yeah.
So, kind of everything goes to plan, and Rowan and Grave went to go deliver Genevieve's body.
They roll up to Salem and
Yeah.
Ophi's house with
Yeah.
her body and the locket and go, Help.
By the way, also something that I noticed, and this was like something at the end of the book that was mentioned where Genevieve was like, I was there for centuries.
Mhm.
She was in this Enchantra for centuries.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. When I read that, I'm like, I don't know if the
I don't
time was
remember that at
different.
all. I wonder if that's like a creative device or something. Cause I don't remember. Cause the time, like, they're still in the 1920s or something.
I don't
I
know.
thought.
I remember reading that and maybe I'll review, but
Yeah, I don't
I was
remember
just
that.
very confused. I was like, wow, did the time go by that fast? I
I don't
mean that
know.
yeah, I guess that slow in Enchantra and then
Mm.
outside life was
Hmm.
fast. I don't know.
I don't know.
Um, so in order to so basically her body gets delivered there to Salem and Ophelia, and Salem is going to try to revive Genevieve, and he had to use a lot of his magic and even erase all of her memories of a person that she loved. I don't know why that had to be
Mm.
like a requirement for her to come back.
I think Salem had to go and make a deal with the King Devil.
Mm.
And the King Devil, Salem basically said, please bring this soul back, I think. And
Because I remember he goes,
and the King Devil, trying to be tricksy, says, okay, I'll grant it to you. Or no, you know who goes? Rowan does. It's not Salem. Rowan goes
oh,
and
okay.
petitions and
Oh, right.
says,
He makes the
yep, he
to anchor his like immortality to
mentality
hers.
to hers.
Yeah.
And Salem's magic, he had to take her memories, I think. I don't know if they're related, but
Yeah.
he basically, in using all of this magic, had to take some of her memories. I don't think that was purposeful on Salem's part.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I think it
the
was just like kind of the way the cookie crumbled in this one.
just one
Maybe
of
it
those
was like just too
consequences.
much powerful emotions and like powers or something. But
Yeah.
so that person, cuz then she kind of went through this, okay, I remember these people, I remember Ophelia,
Mhm.
Salem, whatever. Um and you know who she can't remember? Rowan.
Me. Oh no.
And he
Sad.
and, like, obviously, I think he knew that she wasn't gonna remember him,
Yeah.
and he wrote her letters.
He wrote her letters
So this is where
and
I cried. So this is where I cried, when she was reading, like, that first letter that he wrote to her.
yeah, and that's when he goes to the King Devil and petitions, can she
Yeah,
have her memories back? And he says, he like puts them in this ring,
yeah.
says, if you give her this ring, she has to take the
Yeah,
ring. There's
she
like
has to
all
put it
these,
on.
yeah, there's all these caveats. Like you can't
Yeah,
introduce yourself. She has to take the ring of her own volition. She has to put it
yeah.
on. Yeah.
So this as she continued reading the letters as they were delivered and stuff, Genevieve ran into a handsome stranger, which is like the situation you just
Mm.
described, in the city because they're still in New Orleans. And obviously the handsome stranger was Rowan, and they had a brief encounter, and he gave her a silver ring, but he played it off thinking, by thinking that she dropped it. He was like, "Oh, hey, did you drop this?" And
Mm.
she had like an intuition feeling of like,
Mm.
because at first she said no, and then she started walking away, and he was like, "Darn."
Yep. He was like, gotta try again.
But then she was like, there was a feeling that she had where she was like, "Actually, yeah, it's mine." So I was
To
like,
me, honestly, to be
"Yes."
Rowan in that moment, but then also to
But we
have her
didn't
not
know
put it on.
this. I think we didn't know about the deal until after.
I don't think we knew about the full ramifications of the deal,
Yeah, because I was like, "What is this ring? What's going on
but
here?" It's in the later
oh my
chapter.
god, the thought that, oh man. Anyway.
So, like we mentioned, the ring was an anchor to a deal he made with the King of Hell to get her memories back. And how he did that was to kind of giving her his immortality or like connecting his life with hers and blah blah
Mhm.
blah. Um, and when Rowan was leaving, kind of the King of Hell's
Mhm.
hell room or something, a devil with long dark hair, crimson eyes wanted a message to be delivered to Salem
Mhm.
saying, "Tell him I'm coming."
Ooh.
So, what can we assume here?
What can we well, I would assume it's St. Clair, no?
Oh, maybe.
That's
maybe.
what I thought.
But I don't remember what he looked like.
I don't quite either, but I thought it was Sinclair. When I read it, I was like, "Oh, that's
That's
Sinclair."
I couldn't remember his name, but
Mm.
I was like, who has a connection with like Salem and like
Mhm.
why would he want to deliver this message? So this is kind of like where the book kind of ends. So we
Mhm.
can assume, and even
Mm.
in, I mean, I read it on
Well,
I read it
and
on the Kindle.
she puts the ring on, she gets the memories
Yes,
back,
and she
thank God.
yeah.
Let's not forget that was, like, where I got my sanity
Yes,
back.
I forgot to mention
Oh, I'm like,
that.
"Girl, please tell me I didn't imagine that."
No,
She
yes.
puts the ring back on.
After some time, she, like,
It's
still
2 weeks.
she got the feeling or something, and she was like, "Let me put this ring on," and then all the memories came flashing back, so and
And
then
then
she
there's,
went to
like,
go and hug
oh my
him.
god. He was like,
Ugh,
"I would have waited here until I was dust."
that
Oh
was
my
one of my
god.
teehee moments that we will go
Oh,
over, but I
yeah.
legit cried. I was like not many books make me cry, but I was like, "Ugh, that
I
was so
can't
good."
imagine those 2 weeks for Rowan. I
I
would be
know.
absolutely bereft.
I
I would
think he
be
mentioned that it was, like, a really hard time for him.
oh,
'Cause
just
he
because think about
he
she could have
thought
tossed it in the
yeah,
back of her closet.
and he thought
Mm.
that when they had the encounter, he thought that she would have remembered him or that she did, and when he realized that she didn't, he was, like, torn apart.
Yeah. Oh my god. Heartbreak,
Oh,
heartbreak.
I'm
But then
yeah.
unity, a reunion, they end up
Yes.
together, his life is connected to hers, and naturally his sentiment is like, "I wouldn't want to live an eternity without you anyway."
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, so
If you're not
cute.
willing to give up your immortality for me,
Mm,
what are we even doing? And
yeah.
yeah, happily ever after. Question mark, maybe? 3rd book? What?
Yes, I mean, I read it on the Kindle and,
Mhm.
Kaylee? Yeah.
Smith, yeah.
Kaylie Smith mentioned, "Oh, look out for book 3 and this and that," and, like, see what else was gonna happen, so we
I don't
know
think we're done. I don't
yeah,
think we're done here.
there will be book 3 today. I mean,
Today, I'm like, "Girl,
coming soon.
what do you know that I don't know?"
There will be book 3 coming soon.
Honestly, you would make my life if you just, like, from behind your back, you're like, "Today," I would be like,
Oh, that would be awesome if I received, like, an arc.
yeah, yeah,
That would be
yeah.
so cool.
So if you're receiving any of those, don't hold back.
So yeah, that
Those
is all
are
the plot and thoughts.
plots and thoughts.
All right, so we're gonna take a quick break and then we will be back to discuss our teehee moments, our additional kind of therapy deep dives,
Mm.
and yeah, our theories and predictions for the next book.
Yeah.
So tune in when we come back. We're back.
Yeah.
So now we are going to talk about our teehee moments.
Oh,
all that
abundant.
we look forward to, honestly.
Honestly, best part of my day, best part of the week, just a good recap. Feel
Okay.
like I do not condone smoking. I'm gonna start with this.
Oh,
But
okay.
like for the image, just like a cigarette,
little
but in one of
cigarette,
the
yeah.
and one of those long stem
Oh,
holders,
yes.
like in the 20s.
Like
like
maybe like Cruella de Vil style.
Yes, of course. But again, we don't condone smoking. We also don't condone real fur coats.
Yeah.
Faux fur coats
Faux
with
fur.
the cigarette holder. And at the end, do you remember
Yeah.
those candies when you were a kid that looked like cigarettes? Did you ever get those?
Oh yeah, that
And
it's
you
like
could
chalk or
pretend
something.
puff smoke. We'll have a little candy at the end where we
Oh
could
my God.
pretend to smoke.
Yeah. You know where we're
Yeah.
smoking at?
Where?
We're smoking in Paris in
Ah.
those little cafes, tables
Yes.
sitting outside, just people watching.
Mm.
That's if you want to imagine us where we're at right now, that's where we're at.
That's where we record.
That's how we
actually.
talk about our books.
Yeah, like that's where we are right now. And if you're wondering, there's no like street noise. It's none of your business how we get
Yeah.
all that audio
The
out.
mic doesn't pick that up. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. We're eating croissant. We're eating croissant.
Yeah.
And we are smoking fake candy cigarettes
Mm.
in berets. So put that in your mind.
Amazing. So
Anyway.
now that we finished the picture,
Yes.
so let's do these teehee moment. I say one, and then you can say one,
Oh,
and
I
let's
love
flip flop
that.
like that.
Okay. Because then I think some of ours overlap. So it's
They
like, who's gonna
do.
get there? Who's gonna get there first?
Yeah.
We don't know.
To be honest, guys, we have a long list of teehees for this book, which
So
of
many.
course.
So many.
So, let's see. My first one is the first "you're mine" that he says. This was my idea, therefore you're mine. If anyone is winning freedom from the hunt, it's me.
Ooh.
So this is obviously like when they decided that they were gonna get married.
Sure.
He already called her his.
He did. And do you remember she was not best pleased by that? She said,
No.
don't say it unless you mean it. And then
he
said it again later. And you know that time
he meant it.
I mean, I think he meant it the first time, but
yeah.
I think he extra meant it the second time. And it's like a moment they have. And it's like, oof, okay.
That was a good one. I
Oh, yeah.
loved his way of going about things in this book.
Yes. Okay. So one of my teehee, I don't think this counts as a teehee quote. So can I do like one and then a quote one?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that's cheating, but
no, you do you.
I just have a note that says piercings and tats. Hell yes.
Oh yeah.
That immediately the visage. I was there. I was like, yes. That'll do it for me. So the teehee that I'm going to quote is it says, she twisted around and launched herself at him. He grunted in surprise as she pinned him down, straddling his waist. First of all, okay, compromise position. She said, you're an absolute bastard, she seethed. In a blink, he rolled her over until her back was pressed into the dirty ground, the melting ice soaking through her dress. She let out a shriek of frustration as she tried to reach up and between them and clawed his face. He easily gathered both wrists in one hand while he flattened the other onto the ground next to her head to hold the brunt of his weight off of her. And you're half wild, he observed, a spark igniting in his golden eyes.
Ooh, he easily grabbed
so strong. So strong. And considered enough to keep his weight off her.
Look at him.
And I like that there's a spark of mischief. Like, she's like going feral, and he's like, I see you, wild woman.
They're on the same page.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that whole thing was teehee for me.
That was a good one. I really liked their vows that they said.
Oh my gosh.
My soul is your soul, my heart is your heart, my blood is your blood, eternally.
Oh my god.
Which reminded me of was it Outlander or does it Blood of My Blood?
Blood of my blood, bone of my bone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I immediately when I read that I was like, that reminds me of like the Outlander one. Oh, I loved it.
Once again, I feel like every time we find a way to add Outlander to our conversations and Shadow Daddies.
We gotta discuss Outlander.
We gotta do a whole thing on Outlander. But I feel like you and I will pop up. Like almost you'll have to we need to earn your trust, dear listener, before we subject you to the level of obsession.
Yeah. Every time I'm watching Outlander, immediately I'm always taking pictures of Jamie.
Just like, hot,
yeah.
Yes.
When he's on a horse, when he's just like looking
when he's on the ground.
Yes. Any Jamie picture, I like.
Did you get to the part yet? And I'm not going to reveal anything substantial. He's in a creek and nude.
I am on season 2. Is that in season 2?
So I think I
already saw that. Yeah, I think I already saw that.
That was a special moment.
Yeah.
A special moment in a lady's life. So did you give your quote? We got so carried away.
My soul is your soul. So the vows
were your quote. You tee. Okay, so there's a couple of them that are like the "you're mine" thing, but it gets a little bit like there's kind of two that happen in conjunction with one another. It says, and this is Rowan talking. He says, "I won't be showing you any mercy if you lay a finger on my wife." And then he's talking to Genevieve after about it, and he said, "If he upset you, I think it's important for you to remember that as your husband, it's my job to defend your honor." What?
That was one of mine too.
Wowie. Like,
I love that.
Yes, that whole thing. Teehee.
Let's see, what's the next one? So I had that one on my list. Ooh, I really like this one.
Woohoo.
Trouble. So Trouble is her nickname.
I love that shit. I love it.
Trouble. I suspect the only thing you have experience with is sweet. That's never what I'd be. I was
Oh,
living for
good heavens,
that.
good lord.
Oh my gosh. Meaning that he's not gonna be sweet.
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time, Rowan. Like,
Do it now.
yeah, like, you think I'm is that supposed to scare me? Like, oh my god.
So good.
I love that he's kind of speaking to the way she portrays herself to other people, and so I think he underestimates her toward the beginning about that,
Yeah.
where he's like, "You only know sweet." And in her head, she's like, "You're just seeing the game, like the shit I play out to
Mm.
other people. You have
Mhm.
no idea what
Yeah.
I actually want." It's so hot. It's so
Yeah.
hot. Okay. So there's another like You're Mine one, which I don't think I'll go over. Okay, I like the one where he says, it's Rowan speaking first. He says, "You were right." And she goes, "About what in particular?" And he says, "You aren't like anything I've ever seen before." He said gruffly, "You're spectacular."
That was one of mine too. Oh, that's so
Oh my
good.
god. I'm spectacular. Also, she's like, I love her confidence because she says a little bit before he makes this comment, she's like,
Yeah.
"You've never met anybody like me. Like, you have no fucking idea."
Yeah.
And he sees that shit and he's like,
You're
"Yeah,
right. He's like,
you're
"You're
right.
right."
You're right. Point
Mm.
proven." Okay.
So good. So my next one is where I literally put mic drop.
Mm.
Okay? He said, "If you wanted to be choked, all you had to do was ask. I wouldn't have left any marks." Mic drop. Oh my
And
god.
honestly, first of all, he's portraying like, and he says several times that he likes to choke like his
Yeah.
partners,
Yeah.
which is something that could be done consensually and safely within a relationship, and we appreciate that. And I like that he one kind of betrays that that's his thing. Like he's like, "That's something I like to do." And number
Mm.
two, he's like, "And I'm skilled enough that I'm gonna like do it the right way. That I'm not gonna
Yeah.
hurt you, girl.
Mhm.
Everybody's gonna have fun." And we appreciate that in a man and in a partner. We
Yeah.
appreciate that. Um. Okay. Okay, this is another like You're Mine one, but I can't help it.
He says it all the time.
He says it too much. He plays too much, and like, you know what? If you play too much, I'm gonna comment
I'm
on
gonna
it.
fall for it.
Yeah, consider me like I'm a lemming. You know what I mean? Like all you got to do is lead me with a string of Your Minds
Yeah.
and Good Girls, and I'm
I'm
there. So he says, and he's talking to somebody else, but I don't remember who it is. He says, "She's mine," Rowan snarled, his shadows beginning to swirl in the air around him. "Whatever you might think of that, whatever problem you have with it, if you ever try to touch her again, I will make the rest of your eternal life even more fucking miserable than it already is."
Yeah.
Wowie wowie.
I feel like he was talking to, like, Grave, probably.
Yeah, or like Seven or something. Like he was
Mhm.
talking to one of his siblings, but he
Yeah.
is not
He's
playing around.
protecting her.
And we love it.
Yeah. Let's see what my next one is. "Let me show you what it's like to have my gratitude, Trouble. If you thought I was a tireless opponent, wait until you see me as a lover."
Oh my gosh.
Like, okay, okay.
All
Let's
right.
see.
With all of these strong-willed and complex female main characters, I feel like they are so much stronger than I would ever be in that
Oh,
circumstance.
yeah.
Say that to
He'd
like
walk all
I'd
over
be
me.
distracted. I'd be like, what game are we playing? I don't know. What's happening? Like
Yeah.
she sticks to her guns for a very long time.
She's strong.
Yeah, she is. Stronger than I. He says one that is okay, "I am a creature of hell. Worshipping is not usually in my nature, but for whatever time you remain in my bed, I will make it your shrine."
Ooh.
What?
Let me add to that part.
Oh.
His shadows began to slither down her body.
Oh. You're like, "Don't forget the
I
shadows."
literally wrote that
slithering."
one in caps.
Girl. What else is there to say? What else is there to say?
Okay, so my turn.
Next one. We're just like rattling. Listen.
This one was, I think this was part of the letter that made me. So this is a different type of teehee.
Oh,
Okay.
are we? Because I've been staying away from my like warm-hearted teehees. Maybe we pop a couple in there.
So this one he wrote in the letter, and I know your memories have not come back, even with these letters, and that they mean they likely never will. But I will never stop searching for a way to get them back for you. I will search for the rest of my eternity if I must, because it belongs to you already. I pledged it to you in my vows. I understand if you do not feel the same, if you need to move on with your life. Our vows may have said eternally, but as I told you then, nothing is ever truly eternal except my longing for you. Sincerely, Rowan.
Oh, that's like that goes deeper than a teehee. That's like a soul teehee.
Yeah.
If we're gonna go in that
Yeah.
direction for this little piece, I have one that throughout Genevieve's story, she's kind of trying to find herself. She's trying to figure out how to be good enough, or how to find purpose, or how to find direction. And she talks, and there's a lot of talk of light and darkness and shadow between her and Rowan.
Mhm.
And he says at one point, the light isn't something you need to chase, Genevieve. The light is wherever you are. I wanted to melt. Like he helps her to feel so important, so cherished. Like it was just
He even gives her like that golden cuff that says like the light is wherever you are, or something like that.
And she keeps it. She has it even when she doesn't remember him. It's oh my god, it's so cute.
Oh, so sweet. And this is where she gets her memories back. She says, "How long have you been waiting here?" "Since the day that we brought you home," he says, "lingering in the shadows until you found me." Sobbing.
Oh my god. And like to think about, and I guess in the span of an eternal lifespan, it might not seem, but like 2 weeks of not knowing if your life's blood will ever know who you are. Oh my god.
The other part of that, I think, that he says later is, "I want you to know I really would have waited for you right here forever if that's what it would have taken. I would have stood in this spot until I could no longer distinguish my own soul from the shadows, until your light came back to me."
Oh my god. I had that one too. Oh my god. And
that was my last teehee.
I actually had the line that comes before that, what you just said, and he says, "Before you, I was going to spend my eternity alone in the darkest parts of hell. I'd much rather spend a single lifetime in your light." And then it leads into what you just said. Oh my god. It's too much. It's too much. Okay, this is a little bit more like teehee. And I'm not going to give you the context. I think you'll get it. Rowan says, "You're taking it so well," he groaned. "You're the most stunning person I've ever seen." I think you know what that's about.
We know.
I think you extrapolate from that what you will. We're not gonna lead the horse to water here. We're just gonna let you figure out what that means. But
I felt like this book had so many. Did you have any other ones? Any last ones you wanted to mention?
Let me see. You know what? No, I had a couple others, but I think we got the point. I think we got the spirit of the thing. Yeah. And the spirit of the thing is wow wow. Bow chicka wow wow.
So now we're getting into some therapy deep dive, some additional thoughts that would be great to talk about. I know you love this too. Body representation with a curvy FMC.
Yes.
So there are some moments where she like mentions kind of parts of her bodies or things like that. Everything was too small for her ample curves and the space she took up. Another one was, not to mention her voluptuous figure, which made the soft lines of her curves anything but sharp, even in a corset. Details her suitors had fawned over time and time again. So we love it, and we love to see it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I loved because I had highlighted that first quote as well. Not
Mhm.
even as any, like, just for my own self. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I'm not putting it in teehees. I don't know where I'm going with it, but I just highlighted it on my Kindle. And
We were on the same page there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what I liked about the portrayal um, of Genevieve as a plus size FMC is that it talks about the challenges of that,
Mm.
as well as her indelible confidence
Yeah.
in being a curvy, larger bodied woman. Like,
Mhm.
and as someone who travels in Europe quite frequently, I know exactly this feeling. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I think
Because
if
everything's
you're
narrow, everything's small, even in the bathrooms and things.
yes, the Europe, I mean, many places when you travel, many places, period, are not
Yeah.
designed for larger bodies. They're just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And you, as a larger bodied person, like, you spend a lot of time, I think, especially when I was growing up, thinking that I'm like the problem.
Mm.
And it wasn't until much later that I started to like realize that, like, oh no, like, places should probably just be made for all bodies. If you're
Yeah.
super tall, if you're super short, if
Yeah.
you're, like, disability accessibility, like, I think everybody should have access to the world in the way that
Mhm.
they want. And so, what was really cool about reading her perspective, one, she acknowledges the challenges of a curvier body, but she never pathologizes
Yeah,
it.
it's
She's never
never a
like,
problem that she
"Oh,
has.
I
But
feel so insecure in my body." Because I think that also, like, I read a lot, or I try to read, like, plus size
Mhm.
romance or other things, just like body representation.
Yeah.
And so many of the plot lines are like, "I'm an insecure fat woman and nobody will ever love me."
Yeah.
And somehow this one man, like, bows and scrapes to actually like me, and wow,
That's
how cool is
horrible
it?
to read because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, even in books.
Mhm. The body shaming, even when you're trying to be empowering,
Mhm.
sometimes it definitely is body shaming. And
Yeah.
so it's really cool to see a curvy woman in a book go, "My body's not made for this world, but, like, I move through it. I no, I fuck all the time." She's like, I'm out here
Yeah.
having partners. I'm out here
Yeah, she's
getting."
got suitors who
Yeah,
love her curves.
she does, and
Yeah.
I think that's such a great representation of, like, her curviness, her fatness is a part
Mhm.
of the story, but it's not the whole part of the story. It doesn't
Yeah.
make up her personality. And
Yeah.
there's even one part where, so this was technically in my teehees, but, like,
Mm.
I think it kind of fits into this category. The interactions that they have sexually and just personally,
Yeah.
there are mentions of her curves or her body as a part
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
Again, not pathologizing. Um, but Rowan at some point, and it has more to do with not what he's saying, but kind of what's happening. He says, this is gonna be like, you're gonna be like, "Whoa, girl." He says, "I'm not going to fuck you." He told her yeah, as he splayed a hand over the plump curves of her belly. Yet.
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me was not what he was saying, but him splaying a hand over the
Yeah.
plump curves of her belly.
Yeah.
Like, her body is mentioned, and the curvaceousness, the
Yeah.
bigness of her body is a part of it.
Mm.
Um, and I like that it's mentioned
Yeah.
in a sensual way. Like, there's no
Sensual and positive way. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think if we extrapolate, like, this is of course about a curvy bodied or a larger bodied woman, but if we extrapolate this out to the idea that all bodies are good bodies, all bodies deserve respect, all bodies deserve to be represented, all
Mm.
bodies deserve love and
Yeah.
sex and
Of
sensuality and
course.
all of these things. If we could see different bodies represented in literature, I think it could help folks to understand their experience in a more healthful and helpful way.
Mm.
Like, I'm not saying I would necessarily condone my very younger self reading this, but, like, at 18 or 20, if I had
Yeah.
read this, like, it would have, I think, made a huge difference for me in the way that I saw my body at that time.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to track in literature how we see people represented. I also think in the counseling realm, if we like draw it to the therapy space, that it's in my experience, and I don't know how you've experienced
Mm.
this, Yarlin, but in my experience, because the mental health field is a part of the health sort of professions,
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of like fat phobia, diet talk,
Oh,
like
yeah. Of
stuff
course.
going
Yeah.
on, even in spaces that are supposed to be helpful. I've seen, unhelpful or sort of shame-based talk around bodies. And so I work really hard, and I think I can speak for both of us. We work really hard to accept folks' bodies and to celebrate bodies in the ways
Yeah.
that they show up to counseling. Because dear listener, whatever your body looks like, it is a good body, and
Mhm.
your body deserves love and respect. And I think folks creating loving and respectful relationships with their bodies is a big part of wellness. Whether you
Yeah.
decide to make your body smaller, to like, this is not to say that you can't have autonomy over your body. Folks are well within their rights to do with their bodies as they please. And you'll never hear from me that I want somebody's body to change in some kind of way.
Yeah, I agree, and it's just the whole message of being able to love yourself,
Mm,
and where every day feels like a good day where you're not wishing you looked different. So,
yeah. And I
that's
will tell you, as somebody who played that game for a very
mm,
long time and then learned to stop playing that game, you would be shocked how much mental space opens up
yeah.
when when you are on your body's team and you're not spending your time like being really judgmental or harsh toward your body.
Yeah,
Body
and
love.
we love this, and
Mhm.
I think that was a great part of this book. Another kind of therapy deep dive moment was when Rowan validates Genevieve's feelings.
Mm.
That's something we do a lot in therapy. We validated our clients' feelings. So he says, doesn't mean you aren't allowed to be angry with her about it now. Even if she's gone, you're allowed to feel that anger. And
Oh
I
yeah.
put therapist approved.
Yeah. Yes. Yes,
We are
absolutely.
allowed to feel all the feelings,
Mm.
grief, anger, sadness, happiness, all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think folks like to think that they can skip over the feeling part and just
Mm,
go like, well, let me just rationalize it.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not how emotions play games.
Yeah.
If you try to skip over the processing part
Mm,
and go straight for either problem solving or rationalizing, oftentimes, and I'm not going to say for everybody, but oftentimes the emotions will out in some way. So,
yeah.
I talk with clients a lot about giving your emotions a valve. Like, you don't have to be full emotion all the time. And I've met plenty of folks who find it really hard to be in an emotion for very long. And so the
Yeah.
idea here is not to be a raw emotion wherever you are and just
Mm.
emote everything. And you have to give a valve for the emotion in some way and in some measure.
Yeah.
And what I find, and I don't know if you find this, Yarlin, but for folks who do not give that valve, you're just building pressure, building
Yeah.
pressure until it explodes out in a way that's either really unhelpful or that gets in the way of a client's well being.
Yeah. I definitely see that. And it's just being able to, cope with your emotions in a healthy way, in a safe
Mm.
space. If you need to cry, if you went through a hard day, like let yourself feel it so you can move on,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I can't even begin to count the number of times
Mm,
where I've watched folks have an emotion and just let it be for a second. And it doesn't
yeah.
even have to be a big wild thing. Like, it doesn't have to go on for days or weeks. It could be a couple of minutes of
Yeah.
just
Just sitting with
let it
it.
out. Let it out. Let it be there. Feel it, track it. Like, where is it in my body? How is it coming out? What are, sometimes it can be helpful for folks to just like, what are my thoughts as I'm having these feelings without trying to
Yep.
censor myself and just sort of let that all come out. Trust
Yeah.
me, you will get to the problem solving and the fixing and the You'll get to the cognitive stuff
Yeah.
here soon enough. But
I tell my clients whenever they're, like, having either, like, overthinking thoughts or lots of feelings, I write it down. Write
mm,
down what you're thinking and what you're feeling,
mhm.
and then at another time, we can talk about it, or you can kinda review and see, like, how the different moments you were feeling, what you were thinking about.
Yeah,
So
and if you never give yourself the opportunity to write it down or say it to yourself or think it in
yeah.
your head, it gets pushed down. And so
Mhm.
really when we and because I think also counseling sometimes everyone's like, "Oh, like woo-woo profession, it's all about emotions, da da da."
Yeah.
And what we would contend is this is about survival. Like your emotions are part of your humanhood.
Yes, your
And
everyday life.
yeah, if you don't learn to like learn the language of emotions and operate with them, it's gonna bite you in the ass at some point.
Yeah.
I've nary met a person who has been able to shut off, and a huge air quotes around this,
Yeah.
shut off their emotions and it hasn't had some kind of repercussion for them.
Yeah. I mean, look at Damon Salvatore. Vampire Diaries.
Dude,
They
I
turn the switch off.
oh,
Emotion switch off.
so I haven't ever watched the whole thing like
Oh my
front to back.
gosh.
I watched up into the point where Nina
Dobrev.
Dobrov,
Uh-huh.
she left the show, right?
At some point she did. Okay, so you got through most of it though.
I got through a good chunk of it, but
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the plot.
Turn the humanity switch off.
Oh my god.
Basically, that's when, like, the vampires, like, turn off their feelings.
Oh, I vaguely, very vaguely remember that,
Oh my
but I would have to
gosh.
give it a rewatch to be able to,
Oh, I
like,
love it.
track. Yeah.
Well, one last kinda little quote moment that I thought was great to mention. It's never easy to realize that the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones who can create the deepest scars.
Oof. Yeah.
And that one's I felt like that was a deep one.
Yeah, so this is for me a look at or a comment on the difference between intent and impact.
Mm,
You can intend to protect someone and really end up hurting them. You can
yeah.
intend to help a family member in some way and be super unhelpful. And it can be really hard to own that as the person who's
Yeah.
trying to be helpful and it's not working. That can be really difficult.
Yeah.
It can also be really difficult to be the person on the receiving end of that and going, they have good intentions, they're trying,
Mhm.
and they're messing it up for me.
Yeah.
And so whatever side of that interaction you're on, or there's more kind of complex dynamics there that you can extrapolate, but wherever you find yourself in that process, you can recognize that both exist in the same space. Someone can
Yeah.
be helpful in certain ways and really unhelpful in others. People can be trying to do the right thing and do the wrong thing, absolutely. People can
Yeah.
be trying to do the wrong thing and end up kind of doing the right thing weirdly.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about the complexity of humans. Like as a counselor,
Mhm.
it's just really interesting to see how humans go about trying to problem solve.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the biggest things that has shown up in my clinical spaces is just helping people to recognize that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of times in conversations with folks where it's like, well, but I love them. I love them. And I'm so mad. And it's
Yeah.
like, you can love them and respect them and feel like you owe them the world and be really fucking pissed.
Yeah.
And once you sit with that, all of that can be true. It can be
Mhm.
uncomfortable even as it's true. That's where you can start to unpack really, okay, if they're trying to be helpful or protect you and it's not working, what can we do about that? That's when
Mhm.
once you can acknowledge some of the dissonance there, I think that's when you kind of break into, okay,
Yeah.
how do we have enough self-awareness to formulate our next steps?
Yeah, and I felt like this one also reminded me of just, like, childhood trauma, the
Mm.
people who are supposed to protect you, they create the deepest scars because of what you go through, in your childhood. So that's what it kinda brought me to, and
Oh yeah.
I don't remember why. I think it may have been, they may have been talking about, like, Genevieve's mom or
Mhm,
something. That's what it
mhm.
kind of alludes to maybe, but
Yeah. Well, and I think that the it it's surprising for folks when they say, "This happened so long ago. I don't know why this
Yeah.
is still messing me up." And what's really powerful about childhood and the brains of children is that our brains are hardwired
Mm.
at that age to record experiences really vividly
Yeah.
to keep us safe and to help us understand what we can and can't do within the world and
Mm.
stay safe. And so when you have a really deep or troubling or impactful childhood memory and you feel like you just can't shake it, part of that's your neurology. Part of it is your brain has kind of etched that into your neural
Yeah.
pathways, and
Yeah.
the kind of fear that you felt as a kid is something that can come up again as an adult.
For sure.
And that's true for most people. Like, whatever you're contending with from your childhood, most people are. It's not a shameful thing. It's not a thing. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I feel so childish or I feel so
Mhm.
like immature or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not,
It can
it's,
happen sometimes.
oh my gosh. And it's to process as an adult things that have happened in childhood is difficult work. It's important work. So recognizing that
Mm.
it's human to have
Yeah.
big feelings about stuff that happened a long time ago.
Yeah. So now that we kind of went in through those therapy deep dives or teehee moments, now let's get
Yes.
into our theories and
Oh my gosh.
predictions.
Oh, okay.
So we know that book 3 is coming,
We do.
as Kaylee already mentioned.
Kaylee has. And Yarlin doesn't have an advanced reader copy. It
I don't,
just
unfortunately.
yeah, I don't know why I put that in my head. I really got hopeful, but
I gotta make some connections, see how we can make that happen.
Kaylee, if you're listening,
We'll tag her.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we know that there's a devil coming for Salem.
Oh yeah,
So
the plot is
I
plotting.
can assume that book 3 will have a lot of action.
Mm.
Hopefully no more games.
I
We
don't
need to
know.
retire it, I think.
Okay, so I also agree. I don't want
Yeah.
another game thing, but I think it might be another game thing, and here's why.
What else it's like,
Yeah.
where?
They're
Where's the
mentioned.
location this time?
I wonder if it's going to be in the King Devil's realm. Here's the thing. They mentioned this thing called Nocturnia, I think.
Oh.
Um I or it's not Nocticadia because that's another book series,
Oh,
but it's
I love that book, by the
I
way.
haven't read it, but
You need to
oh,
read it.
okay.
It's amazing.
But they mention, oh,
Oh.
this thing Nocturnia is coming up.
It's a place or something, no?
I wish I could
Oh,
I wish I could pull that detail out
okay.
from wherever it exists in my mind. But it is some sort of gauntlet, some kind of thing
Interesting.
that they mention, or at least it felt that way to me. And so I get the feeling like even though I'm on board with you, I don't want any more games. I want a new plot. I want a new thing.
Yeah.
I don't know
But
if that's gonna happen.
I mean, this series is called
Mm.
Wicked Games.
So I love it. We're like, no more games.
But the series is called
She's
Wicked
like,
Games.
I
So
did literally tell you what it was called, and I told you what this was gonna be.
So I mean, I hope it's just like
Maybe different
different.
kind of games. Like, let's not be trapped in a house.
Can it be outside?
Oh yeah, like outside
In a forest,
or
a spooky forest.
Ooh.
That would be really cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay. There's in the area in which we live, there is a like haunted hayride thing that you could
Oh.
go on, and it goes through the woods and people like bang axes on the hayride and stuff. It's
Oh.
spooky world. Spooky world.
I don't know.
Well,
I've
maybe
been
we'll have
to
to
one.
maybe we'll have to
It's a
introduce you.
yeah, I think I've been to one, but
Okay. Well, it's I maybe
but
like
you're
that.
you're in a different part
Yes, yeah, of the place.
of the place.
Can you
I've
figure
been to the
out?
one in my place
In your area.
area.
Uh,
So yeah,
so
I
maybe in a
mean,
forest is what it,
yeah,
or
I
like
think a forest would be really cool.
I think if I had to guess, I would say it's going to be the King of Hell's domain somewhere in hell. I don't know that for sure, but
That's a good
Sinclair
idea.
or Sinclair adjacent person shows up and is like, I'm
Oh,
coming for you. And here we
yeah.
are. So
So that
Uh,
is something to look forward to.
yeah.
We gotta check out and see if, when
What are the
when
games?
it'll come out and when we'll talk about it.
Yeah. And I also wanna know who the FMC and MMC are gonna be.
Yeah, because 'cause that'll be a whole different, like, family and
Who
everything.
knows?
Who
I don't maybe
knows?
Sinclair, maybe
Maybe everyone all together.
oh,
Mm.
little little polyamory.
We'll see what they get into.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see.
So that was kind of the end of our episode here. Make
Yep.
sure to check out our future episodes coming out.
Yeah.
Follow us on social media.
Yep.
And again, if anything in this episode kind of triggered you or anything like that, please remember, take care of yourself, seek out treatment as needed, and this is only for entertainment.
Yeah, this is not to be designed for self-diagnosis or treatment. So, at Faye and Fables Pod on Instagram or fayandfablespod@gmail.com. Get in
Talk
touch.
to us.
Get in touch.
Bye.
Bye.